In this video, let's talk about an updated injury report following the Chiefs and Broncos game, the Chiefs' current path to the 1 seed, as well as some standout plays and players from yesterday's game, some of which are having quite the impressive season. But first, how about those? All right, after doing some digging today, studying stats, some analytics, and then watching the game again, I want to talk about some standout plays and players on both sides of the football, starting with the offense. First off, the Chiefs scored their first opening drive touchdown in the last 12 games. That's right. For 12 games, they had not scored a touchdown on their opening drive. And it was kind of hard to believe. Pretty freaking crazy stat, if you ask me, but hey, here we are. They broke the streak. Let's go. Kadarius Toney had a standout day, catching 4 passes for 71 yards and leading the team in receiving yards. He had a great jumping grab near the right sideline for 38 yards. And then a bit later, after a costly fumble on a punt return resulting in a Denver touchdown on the very next play, Mahomes made sure to connect with Kadarius Toney on the first offensive play following that touchdown by the Broncos, and he hit him on a crossing route for 27 yards. Outside of his fumble, which was costly, make no mistake about it, Kadarius Toney had a great day overall and is proving himself to be a valuable weapon for Mahomes after coming back from that hamstring re-aggravation. Noah Gray had another catch in this game for 12 yards on 1st and 20, I believe it was, and that makes the 11th catch in a row that he's caught from Mahomes out of 11 targets, totaling up for 142 yards over the past 5 or 6 games. Can't remember off the top of my head. And speaking of tight ends, Blake Bell, he had his first receiving touchdown on the season after being out all season due to a hip injury he sustained in the preseason that required hip surgery. And then wide receiver Justin Watson had a great catch for 27 yards, an incredible pass from Mahomes, I might add, that was right before halftime to set the Chiefs up for a 51-yard field goal attempt that ended up getting tipped and being no good. Regardless though, Justin Watson had 1 reception in the month of December for 15 yards and has nearly doubled his total receiving yards for the month of January when compared to December. Impressive. Wide receiver Sky Moore had a tough drop to begin the second half on 2nd and 8, but earlier in the game made a couple of nice plays on some quick passes. And since we're talking about Justin Watson and Sky Moore, they were subjects in yesterday's video. It's worth noting that Justin Watson's snaps went down this game quite a bit. He had 22 total snaps. Sky had 15. I think Kadarius Toney had 19. Meanwhile, MVS had 50 and Juju had 39. So it seems that for this game at least, MVS switched the amount of reps with Justin Watson, who had the second most of any receiver last game. And MVS is worth talking about as well because Mahomes missed MVS in this game at least 3 times. 2 on deep routes, once was overthrown and then once underthrown, and once on 3rd and 8 near the end of the game on an out route on the left side. And Mahomes actually said in his post-game presser that he apologized to MVS after the game for the misconnects.
The last one to Marquez on the sideline, that's a throw I've thrown a million times. And leaving it short, I told him to get to the sticks and go out right there at the sticks, and then I was the one that threw it short of the sticks. So just had to be better. I mean, I went right up to him after the game and just told him I'm let him down today. I mean, he had probably 2 touchdowns of over 50 yards that he should have had today, and I missed the throws. One was short, and I know there's pressure, but I can make that throw, and one was long. So I have to be better, and I'd tell him just to continue to go, and that's the type of player he is. He's going to continue to be out there and be a playmaker, and I think you've seen in our big games this year, he's been the guy that's been very valuable to us, and I expect that to happen in the playoffs. When you have that game-changing speed and ability, you're going to be a guy that we need when it comes down to where we want to go.
So yeah, Mahomes did struggle at times in this game, particularly in the second half, to which he acknowledged as much. There were definitely several passes that were off target, but in spite of those struggles, Mahomes still managed to throw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, making several eye-widening plays as well, including an insane shovel pass to Travis Kelce, among others that I mentioned, like to Justin Watson. The interception, though, in the end zone was definitely a tough mistake, to which Mahomes acknowledged that he was trying to force a ball that he should not have. And this is an interesting stat. This season, Mahomes has thrown 4 INTs against the Broncos. So 4 this season, but in his first 9 games against the Broncos throughout the years, had only thrown 4 total. So 4 interceptions in his first 9 games against them, and then 4 this season alone against them in the last 2 games. Not ideal. Something else that isn't ideal is going to be the Chiefs and how they struggled in their run game. Yesterday, the Chiefs rushed for a total of 46 yards against the Broncos, making it their lowest total in rushing yards of the entire season. And here's their 6th lowest rushing totals for the year, along with the outcomes. Broncos, 89 yards rushing with a win. That was their first meeting a few weeks ago. Then Titans, 77 yards, win. Seahawks, 77 yards, win. Bills, 68 yards, loss. Colts, 58 yards, loss. Broncos, 46 yards yesterday, win. So interesting to note that out of those 6 games, the Chiefs still went 4-2. And I believe it points to how good Mahomes is and how special Andy Reid's offense can be, specifically in the passing game. And speaking of special, we got to brag about this man, Jarek Jet McKinnon for a moment, who scored 2 receiving touchdowns yesterday, making this his 8th touchdown in the last 5 games and 9 total on the season. Nobody has more touchdowns on the team other than Kelsey, who has 12. McKinnon also leads all running backs in TD catches this year with 8. No other running back has more than 5, and only 6 total players have more TD grabs this year. Listen to these names: Devontae Adams, Travis Kelsey, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, and George Kittle. Are you freaking kidding me? McKinnon is also the first running back in the Super Bowl era to record a receiving touchdown in 5 straight games. Basically, he's him and our greatest weapon on the offense outside of Travis Kelsey, and it is undeniable at this point. Maybe things will change with a McCole Hardman return for the postseason if that happens, and Kadarius Toney is quite the weapon himself, but man, Jerick McKinnon is showing up time and time again. And with all that being said, let's turn to the other side of the ball, to the defense, because there's definitely some things to talk about here as well. Carlos Dunlap, Nick Bolton, and Justin Reed had nice batted down passes. Both Bolton and Reed were blitzing and made a nice play, aided by the fact that Russell Wilson is 5'5" and cannot throw over players if his life depended on it. And on the subject of Nick Bolton, he was targeted 6 times, allowing 6 receptions for 77 yards, an average of 12.8 yards per reception. He gave up the most yards by far, with the second being Jalen Watson, who gave up 5 receptions on 5 targets for 37 yards. So a rough game for Nick Bolton here. He's had a couple of these recently, and hopefully, it picks up before the postseason. He just struggles in coverage, and I don't know if it's a spag scheme issue or what it is. But I will say this: he struggled yesterday, and it was pretty evident. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. Thornhill gave up a touchdown to the tight end with the long O word for a last name. You hated to see that. He made some other splash tackles, but that one was a touchdown given up by Thornhill. And then Joshua Williams, he had a couple of tough calls against him as well. One was a costly illegal hands to the face on 4th and 6, in which Russell Wilson is being taken down and threw an interception to Nick Bolton, which would have helped Bolton's stats on the day, to be honest, but that was negated to the penalty, and the Broncos ended up ending that drive with a freaking touchdown. And I did get pretty frustrated with Joshua Williams yesterday, and I'm not in the get rid of Joshua Williams ASAP group. I think he's doing well, especially considering 4th-round pick from a D2 school in Fayetteville State, but there has been several times this season in key situations where a penalty has been called against him, and yesterday it definitely frustrated me to see. And then another rookie, cornerback Trent McDuffie, he had a great strip sack on Russell Wilson on a blitz to prevent the Broncos from scoring before halftime, and was seen blitzing a couple of times like this in the game. A nice little switch up by Spags, sending the smaller rookie Trent McDuffie instead of L'Jarius Sneed. And then Chris Jones had back-to-back impact plays on 3rd and 4th down on the Broncos' last drive of the game, helping stop a run on 3rd and 5, making it 4th and 2, and then getting to Russell Wilson on that 4th and 2, pretty much ending the game after the Chiefs were able to convert on a 3rd down to Travis Kelsey on the following drive. Kelsey, Mr. Reliable and nearly automatic on 3rd downs. And someone else that is becoming more and more reliable as the season goes on is the rookie Furious George Karlaftis, not Laftis, Loftus, getting another sack yesterday, making that his 5th sack in the last 6 games. He now has 5.5 sacks on the season and is only 2nd on the team in total sacks, behind Chris Jones, who has 13. George Karlaftis is the 8th youngest player in the NFL, if you wanted to know, and out of all rookies, he has the 3rd most sacks with 5.5, the 2nd most pressures with 43, only behind Aiden Hutchinson, who has 50, and then he leads all defensive ends in batted down passes with 7, being tied for 1st with another Chiefs defensive end, Carlos Dunlap. So hats off to Furious George Karlaftis, who is a very young man, only getting better with time. The last player I want to highlight for now is cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, who had an INT yesterday and is having one of the most versatile defensive seasons in decades. According to Jeremy Fowler, Sneed is the 5th player since 1999 with at least 100 total tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, and 3 sacks. He joins Logan Ryan, Patrick Williams, Thomas Davis, and Keith Mitchell. So that is incredible for one, and that's also why I hope the injury that Sneed sustained at the end of that interception return is minimal. He took a nasty, awkward spill at the end there and definitely hurt his hip. Thankfully, he was able to come back in and return, but I want to talk about injuries for a moment here because there were quite a bit. We mentioned Sneed, who was labeled after the game with having a hip pointer, taking things day to day. I will say maybe there's a positive at the fact that even though Sneed needed a bit of help off the field, that he returned and did finish the game. But so did McCole Hardman. I know it's different injuries, but McCole Hardman, when he got injured, I think in the Titans game, he finished out the game and then was listed on the injury report, and then we never saw that man ever again. Even though he tweeted yesterday he met Sierra. So congratulations, McCole Hardman, for meeting Sierra. Anyway, back to the point. I did reach out to someone connected to the team, a source, if you will, and asked how Sneed was doing. And this person said that he is indeed day-to-day, but, quote, he will be good. And I certainly hope that is the case because Sneed is one of the strongest part of the team's defense and certainly the team's secondary. Anyway, back to injuries. Nick Bolton was shaken up on a play and went down to one knee, but returned a couple of plays later and did finish out the game. Mahomes got hit on the second drive of the game in the first quarter and appeared to have a slight limp afterwards, which I think was his knee. And while he finished the game with what looked like no issues, reporters after the game were asking Mahomes if his knee was bothering him at all and if it had anything to do with him being off on some of his throws. And Mahomes said it wasn't and that he was fine. And I sure freaking hope so. We need that man, QB1, the best QB in the NFL, please. And thank you. And then Travis Kelce got hit hard in the fourth quarter and was slow to get up. He did return, but you never like to see that, man. This is one of those games where I'm just like, please survive. After we're getting all these injuries, I'm like, please just make it out alive. Please just make it out alive. And alas, we do have what is possibly a major setback here without confirming with the doctors and all that stuff. Joe Thuney went down in this game. The man I would consider to be the staple of the offensive line alongside Creed Humphrey. He re-injured his same ankle and was seen on the field writhing in absolute pain, agony, other adjectives, etc. Sadly, he never returned. Coach Reed said that Thuney was going to get an MRI today and, quote, we will see how it looks from there. But again, man, Thuney looked to be in a lot of pain, and I fear for this one. He is a large part of the O-line's success, and this is a big hit. I know it was his same ankle, but he was off the injury report. I think he was good to go. I don't know what happened, but man, he was in a lot of pain. And while I think Nick Allegretti can step in and do a decent job, he is no Joe Thuney. The last injury to mention, I think, is more minor than the Thuney thing. It's going to be wide receiver Sky Moore. He got a laceration on his hand that kept him out of the remainder of the game. I think it happened like in the third or fourth quarter, but Coach Reed did not seem too worried about that one and made it seem like Sky would be back. This is one of those games. Again, I just wanted to escape with very little injuries, with it being the end, near the end. The Chiefs already have the postseason on lock, even though they are fighting for the 1 seed. More on that later, but dang. They definitely got dinged up in this game, and I will be interested to hear from Coach Reed in his presser tomorrow and see the first injury report to see who is actually on it and what it looks like. Anyway, there you go. Standout plays, standout players on both sides of the ball, as well as an injury update. And with that win over the Broncos, that marks 15 wins in a row and is tied for the third longest win streak over a team in NFL history. The Chiefs haven't lost a game to the Broncos since September 17th, 2015. Actually, I think, yeah, that was their last loss. And then the win streak officially started on November 15th, 2015, which was 2,605 days ago. Good God almighty. They are tied with the Patriots' win streak over the Buffalo Bills from 2003 to 2010, and also with the Washington, whatever their name is these days, and their win streak over the Detroit Lions from 1970 to 79. And the only two teams to have a longer win streak was the 49ers over the Rams in the 90s and the Dolphins over the Bills in the 70s. But how times have changed, because the Dolphins and the Patriots won't be having win streaks over the Buffalo Bills for quite some time. More on the Bills in a moment as we talk about the Chiefs and the 1 seed. But first this. Yesterday or last night, somewhere around there, the NFL announced that the Chiefs will play the Raiders on Saturday, January 7th at 3:30 p.m. Central. So we will be live for the play-by-play reaction of that game for sure. But that means the NFL will announce the rest of the Week 18 schedule after or during tonight's Bills-Bengals game. So what does this mean for the Chiefs as far as the 1 seed is concerned? Well, if the Bills lose against Cincinnati and the Chiefs beat the Raiders, the Chiefs get the 1 seed. If the Bills beat Cincy and the Chiefs beat the Raiders, the Bills would then need to win on Sunday against the Patriots to secure the 1 seed. And then if the Bills win tonight against the Bengals and the Chiefs lose to the Raiders, the Bills have the 1 seed locked up regardless of the outcome of Sunday's game against the Patriots. So for tonight, at least on Monday Night Football, it's Hold or Hooday for me. What are your guys' thoughts on the standout plays and players from yesterday's game? Are you, like me, going to be rooting for the Bengals to get a victory over the Bills? Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?